Without the legal support of the government, cultural preservation of Palestinian, Mizrahi, and Sephardi voices is dependent on oral histories, objects, and collective organization. With most museum curation and institutional dissemination of cultural knowledge executed performatively by outside parties, there's an urgent need for accessible infrastructures which support these traditions of cultural preservation. This archive centers cultural objects that have meanings to individuals within a contextual digital commons that reorients individuals as the storytellers, curators, and audience. Cultural objects are containers of histories. They're also proof of existence. Through displacement and migration, cultures cross-pollinate and paths branch and multiply. Meanings are unique to individuals, yet these are situated within a broader geopolitical context. These idiosyncratic dialectics between individual and culture are reflected in these objects, acting as a point of departure for empathetic conversation. Cultural objects are at once local and representative, carrying worlds of stories into new contexts. Significance of an object is relative and subjective, but through care and empathy, meanings can be shared and valued. Middle Eastern rugs are one of the archetypal symbols of the diaspora. Pile rugs have been used to track them, locating Persian carpet styles as far as Siberia. Cultural stories, prayers, local vegetation, iconic architecture, and cultural symbols are woven into rugs and passed down for generations. The medium is inseparable from stories of power, labor, gender, and culture. To this day, rugs are powerful symbolic objects across diasporas of the Middle East. Without a personal point of entry, it is impossible to empathize with other views. In this take on the digital commons, the navigable perspectives enabled by game engines drive the experiential framework of reorienting users to a new perspective with each narrative. A person's starting point is not a matter of choice. The process of reorientation, accepting new truths and expanding one's worldview, is also a reconfiguration of predispositions. This grounding mechanic of the z-axis provides the tools of situating users relative to distinct vantage points, foregrounding cultural objects as windows into personal histories. Reorientation encourages consideration and expansion of personal views by shifting the very ground upon which we stand. The cultural objects in this archive are of Jewish and Palestinian diasporas, sourced from research and direct interviews. Scenes are composites of Palestinian, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi cultural objects and environments, presenting cultural differences and similarities that expand beyond existing dominant narratives. Instead of summarizing, rephrasing, or curating contributions to fit into a larger specific narrative, my goal as a co-curator of this proposed digital archive has been to document direct personal stories. Over the past several months, I met with participants in person, over the phone, and over video calls. The benefits of digital ethnographic fieldwork are the same benefits of a digital archive. It is possible to reach across continents and time zones to connect with people directly. Participants sent in text messages, images, sharing vulnerable stories, and hilarious anecdotes. I worked with participants to create interactive 3D objects that reflect their stories with their direct quotes and photos as the interactive elements. The built environment and the architectural representation of the digital archive is fragmented to reflect the fragmentation of diasporic cultural narratives. Featured are the historic Jerusalem stones and ruins of antiquity from the biblical era. The concrete references the separation walls between Israel and occupied Palestine, as well as the international style of Israeli cities brought over from the Bauhaus of Dessau that replaced many Palestinian villages. The construction rubble reflects the ruins of the last century with the displacements, occupations, military attacks, and pogroms. In gameplay, users are encouraged to interact with objects that were added through contribution. When clicked on, the objects receive their color, drawing them out from the muted site and highlighting them as objects full of life and context. Through interactivity and reorientation, active rather than passive engagement with individual narratives is encouraged. The interactive digital commons presents personal narratives as profound proof of pluriversality within a world of absolutes.